Power of Control F. You know, when I used to work on audio gear, they had schematics, but they did not have PDFs of the schematic. And a lot of people hate PDFs. But here's the thing I want to tell you about the PDF. The PDF is searchable. So you may hate the PDF because it sucks like on your crappy little computer. So if you have some piece of shit 1366 by 768, or you have one of those old piece of shit MacBooks that 1280 by 720, or a big 1280 by 800 because they thought 1280 by 800 was acceptable in 2012, I feel bad for you. Like, it sucks. But when you have 4K, a PDF is fucking awesome. All right, so over here by Q7800, PP3v3S4 FET, which is really PP3v3S3, is going to get turned into PP3v3S4 underscore FET. So how do I know that this is really PP3v3S3? Because people are going to wonder, well, where the hell is he coming up with this shit? He already knows that. He's the professor. He knows, I'm never going to learn this. Well, because this thing tells me. Actually, it's not PP3v3S3, it's PP3v3S5. So over here, PP3v3S5 is going to be responsible for all of these. So PP3v3S5 over here is going to be responsible for all of this, and one of them is that. So let's just find our way back to where we were. Yoink. So let's see what's going on in the Q7800 R7803 area. So Q7800 R7803, Q7800 R7803, and this is, oh boy. Okay, so that's over here, Q7800. And this is going to be fun because this is one of those things where it doesn't look the way it's supposed to. But what do I mean by doesn't look the way that it is supposed to? So let me show you something on the schematic and also the board view. All right. I mean, not the schematic and the board, I mean the microscope and the board view. So see this? Now on the screen, it's saying that on the left I have pins and on the right I have pins. So left and right are where the pins are. But then when you look on the actual computer, the pins are not in the left and the right. They're on the up and the down. So it's oriented differently. So what's wrong here is I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to be measuring. And that really sucks. Yeah, that sucks a lot. Man, fuck you for drawing this stuff that way. So let's kind of see what's going on in this area. Let's see what it is that thing is supposed to do, because I don't want to go nuts measuring shit that I don't know how to measure. So this here says this is a P-type MOSFET. Now, as you may have learned in my video on transistors, if you weren't so focused on the trolls that were so pissed off that I wasn't talking about the nonlinearity and the blah, 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 if you got to the actual point of it, which was to help you troubleshoot laptop schematics, you would know that when he says it's a P-type MOSFET, it means that the voltage on the gate has to be lower than the voltage on the source if this is actually going to open. So if I have PP3v3S4 on my source, I'm going to measure that on R7802 because I don't know which pin is what in the fucking transistor. So I'm going to measure pin 1 of R7802 and make sure I have 3 volts there. Now, if the voltage in the gate is lower than the source, it'll open. So I'm going to measure the voltage on pin 1 of C7800 and see if that's lower than 3.3. So first thing I want to do is I want to see if 3.3 volts is getting to this transistor. So I'm going to measure on R7802 on pin 1. So R7802 pin 1, it's got to be somewhere over here. R7802, pin 1, here we go. So right over there, let me just rotate this so I actually know where I am, and of course it takes me away from where I was. So R7802, pin 1. Now that over there has to be getting 3.3 volts. So if that's getting 3.3 volts, I know that I'm getting power to the input of my transistor. So I'm going to turn my multimeter back on, and I'm going to measure right over here. And let's see what I get. So I touch this to this, and I get 3.29 volts, which is close enough to 3.3. So I have voltage going into my transistor. So I have voltage going in over here. Now I need to see if this thing's actually being told to turn on. So let's see what I'm getting at pin 1 of C7800. So pin 1 of C7800 is going to be... Here we go, pin 1 of C7800. So remember, that's got to be lower than 3 volts for this shit to turn on. If it's not, if this over here is a perfect 3.3 volts, it's not going to be told to turn on. So right over there, I get 3.21 volts, which means that the transistor is not the problem because it's not actually being told to turn on. You understand? So let's see why it is it's not being told to turn on. So that means that P3v3S4 underscore enable may not be working the way it's supposed to. So remember, so what's going on here is this is pretty much taking 3.3 volts and sending it over here so that this thing is automatically being told to turn off. Now, this is going to turn on if this transistor, which is over here, is an N channel, has the signal. It's going to send this to ground so that the gate is 0 so that this lets power through. So this transistor is going to let power through if the voltage in the gate is lower than the source. This pull-up resistor, R7802, exists to make sure that there is always 3 volts in the gate so that this shit never opens. So what we need to do is we need to take the voltage from this pull-up resistor over here and get it the fuck out of there so that this will actually open. Remember, this won't open if you have voltage in the gate. This resistor is always powering the gate. So what we need to do is take whatever is on this side, and this transistor over here needs to send that shit to ground. So in order for this to send it to ground, P3V3S4 P3V3S4_enable has to be present. So if that's present, let's see if that is present, and let's see where that also comes from. P3V3S4 again. So let's see where Q7803 is. Let's hope that that's nearby on the board and not on the other side, because that would be bullshit. Thank God Q7803 is right here. So let's see. So we're looking for pin 1 has to have 3 volts. So pin 1 has to have 3 volts. That enable signal has to be there. So pin 1 is going to be the upper right pin. So let's see what we get on that upper right pin. The upper right pin's got to be 3 volts, or else I have a serious problem. And the upper right pin is 0.092 volts, which means that I do have a serious problem. So that enable is not present. So now let's continue chasing. Again, we're not going to replace this. It's doing its job. We're not going to replace any of this shit because all of this is doing its job. We're not going to replace this because it is doing its job. It is. And let's just double check. I'm just going to make sure that I'm not talking out of my ass here. Let's just make sure that that chip is actually an N-channel MOSFET and not a P-channel MOSFET. Let's see if I can find the data sheet for this. And who are we fucking kidding? We are never going to find the data sheet for that. Fuck you. All right. So let's see where P3V3S4_enable is supposed to be coming from. So this here is going to be coming from... Seriously now? Fucker. Okay. So this is coming from here, which is dependent on SMC, S4, Wake, SRC enable, and PM sleep, S5L. Only this dude could send in a board where your no keyboard trackpad problem could probably be a fucking PCH or SMC issue. I'm serious. This over here is some real bullshit. Like, we joke here about this one particular client because everything sent in is a total clusterfuck. But this is really like, this is just kind of getting silly. Like, this never happens. You got to realize that. So let's see where U7970 is on this motherboard. I can't believe U79. I am not replacing a fucking PCH or SMC over a keyboard issue. No way. Like, I talk about wanting to do things the right way, and I really, honestly, truly do want to do things the right way, but there's a time when, when no, and this is one of those times where it's just kind of a no. All right, so let me show you this little piece of shit. So you see that little thing that you can barely see? That is actually this. You've got to be shitting me. What a fucking rabbit hole. All right. So let's see. So that is the thing, right? That is the piece. And let's see if there's any probe points on the board or in this area, because again, fuck if I am going to have any idea what's going on here. All right. So let's figure out what we're doing. So I want to see what is coming into pin 2 and 1. You gotta be kidding me. You've got to be fucking kidding me. I swear this is the only time that I've ever seen this shit over a fucking keyboard. I mean, like, seriously. This is bullshit. And there's no probe point next to it. Here, we're going to go into this little mess over here. The reason this isn't fun is because there's so many things in this little crowded area. All right. PM sleep S5. Where are you? Let's see if you're here. Zoom out. Oh, look at this. You have sprinkled a bunch of probably conductive thermal paste on the motherboard. Thank you. That's probably why this shit doesn't fucking work. All right. By the way, this is actually warranty. This is somebody who sent it back, and I'm pretty damn certain that this thing got sent back because of conductive thermal paste being all over the fucking motherboard. Let's see. So we have this point over here. So let's see. Where am I measuring? So I have the cap, the resistor, and then 2 probes. Actually, 3 probes diagonally. I'm measuring the 3rd probe down diagonally. 1, 2, 3. This point here. So that's 3.27. All right, we're getting somewhere. So over here, this signal into the logic gate is 3.27. Now let's see what SMC, S4, Wake, SRC enable is. Again, I'm not going to look up what this thing is because I'm 99.999% certain that this is the logic gate. And the whole point of this thing is when you have the input voltages, send the output voltages. Let's see what SMC, S4, Wake, SRC, and EN is, and tell me there's a place to measure that in the board besides under the SMC because that will make me angry. So you have under the SMC, you have that little resistor by the SMC. Cool, you got some probe points by this little piece of shit chip. So let's go back to the piece of shit chip for a second. This little, whoever came up with this, I swear. Okay, so let's see, this thing is it. Okay, so right by my chip, we have, there we go, that is a probe point. So we're going to measure right over there for the SMC signal. And let's see what we get over there. My God, what a rabbit. We get 3.4. So both inputs are going into my logic gate. So at this point, my logic gate has both inputs. So we have this and this. Now what I want to see is my logic gate actually getting power? Let's measure on C7970 what it is I'm getting. Now at this point, I'm pretty sure my logic gate is fucked. It's not that I have 0 volts, which it should if it's not getting power. It's not that I have 3 volts, which is what it should get if this is getting power and being told to turn on. I'm getting 0.9. So that's kind of like it's trying to send it, but it's not, which leads me to believe that these signals are present, and I'm probably even getting power to the chip, but this little chip is fucked. So let's see, PP3V, let's find where C7970 is. So C7970, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to have 3 volts on there. I'm 99% certain that I do have power going to this little logic gate, but this little logic gate is fucked. Let's see. So C7970, and again, this is really rabbit hole territory. There's absolutely, again, we joke about this here because every single one of these boards is a nightmare. Every single one of these boards is a clusterfuck. Like they are all nightmares, and this one is really no different. Again, keyboard trackpad problems being caused by logic gate that turns power enable signal on for PP3V3S4, unheard of. Okay, so we have power on the enable. I mean, not on the enable. We have power on the power pin here, which is PP3V3S5 _ power CTL. At this point, I can safely say that this logic gate is fucked. It is not giving me a signal on output, even though it has both signals on input, and it also, over here, has the PP3V3S5 signal, not signal, power rail powering it. So this chip has power going to it. It has power powering it, but it's not sending anything out, which means that that thing has got to go. So we turn on the very noisy rework station, we turn on the noisy ass air filter, and let's get to work replacing this really, really tiny piece of shit. What a little piece of shit you are. So we're coming up on 40x over here. And look at how small that is. Oh, duh, you're not going to see a damn thing until I change the lighting. Look at how small that little thing is. Fiji. The salesperson who works here actually yells at me when he sees me working on these motherboards. He legitimately yells if there is anything in the queue. If there's anything in the queue besides this, and he sees me touching this shit, he will take it off of my desk and put something that's actually A, for customer, regular customers, and B, not a nightmare in front of me. Because he knows that these are like a total waste of time. Okay, we're removing that little pile of shit. I'm soldering here at about 40x. Yeah, this right here is 40. That's how small this crap is. Wow, my hand tremors look a lot worse at 40x than they do at 10. Let's see if I can even get the soldering iron in the viewable field of the microscope. Wow, that looks awful. Like, you can't really tell that bad at 10x, but... Seriously? That is my natural state. Look at that. I can't even keep the iron in the microscope. Oh boy. This is bullshit. Alright, so we're going to get rid of all the old stuff. Right, we're going to get this from a donor board. As you saw when I went searching for this, well, I'll be like, don't you get new parts for people? You realize how nobody sells this but AliExpress, right? You realize that AliExpress is probably one of the worst places on the internet to buy anything, unless there's no place else available on the internet to buy it from. I mean, there is no such thing as buying any of these things new. Apple does not want you to fix their fucking products. Apple has no interest in you fixing any of their shit. This is really about you buying a new one or spending $750 at Apple for what is probably a 17-cent logic gate. That chip's not BGA. Okay. You can see. So before, the keyboard and the trackpad were not working. And this trackpad is cracked, so it's actually still not going to be working. So I'm going to use my own trackpad. How the people that do this make money is actually beyond me. Let me find the trackpad. Like, really, you buy these machines broken for a few $100. You send them to me to fix it for a few $100. Then you have to spend a few $100 on all the little other shit that's wrong with them besides what I'm charging you to fix, so that you can sell this thing for like $500 or $6. Drop the speaker there. Like, I really don't understand where the profit is in any of this business model. I have no idea. Again, this whole buying shit and praying that it's decent and sending it to somebody to get it fixed. Like, the only way that buying machines and reselling them is good, the only way I will endorse that business model is if you are honest to God paying nothing for them. Like, so we here will pay up to $100, but that's to buy a machine where I'm replacing a hard drive and it works, or something like that. I would never in a million years pay more than $100 for a machine that isn't the easiest fix in the world, or free for something that's going to be difficult. I mean, I'm not going to do that. I don't recommend that you guys get into these bidding wars or, God forbid, buy shit on eBay, because you are going to get fucked in the ass really hard if you buy stuff on eBay. All right, so right now I'm going to hold down the Option key again. Now I got my own trackpad plugged in there. Holding down the Option key. Now let's see if this thing works any better with my own trackpad. Again, I want to make sure that the board itself is good before it goes off and gets ruined by a conductive thermal compound again. So let's see. Can you see the cursor moving? I can't. Surely there will be a better way to do this. Let me see if I can see the cursor moving first. Ah, it moves great. All right, so now I have to figure out how to get you guys to see it. I gotta get mini display. I gotta get a mini display port to HDMI thing so that I can just plug this into the HDMI capture. That would make it a lot easier than doing this shit. All right, so this is gonna be my cursor moving and working. I have no idea if you can see that. It's also hard when you're kind of trying to hold the trackpad with one hand and use it. So what I'm doing here is I'm holding this trackpad like this and doing this, but while I'm holding it, I'm kind of fucking up its ability to move. Anyway, as you can see, I went from having no keyboard and trackpad. I didn't even bother measuring to see that I have 3 volts there. I know that I have 3 volts there now that my keyboard and my trackpad are working. Me hitting the Option key, that would not work. Me moving left and right to choose drives, that would not work. Nor would this trackpad work otherwise. So again, I don't know how people make money doing this, but apparently they do, or they wouldn't have money to pay the repair bill. But again, I strongly recommend against that business model. Do not go on eBay and buy a bunch of broken shit and in hopes that you'll be able to fix it, because if you do that, it's really going to be a clusterfuck for you. Again, like, this is the type of shit that you get when you buy this stuff on eBay. And I don't want to get the idea twisted. I like this person who sends stuff in. They're nice. They're a very kind person, very nice person, very respectful person, but that doesn't really differentiate from the fact that almost everything that gets sent in is complete shit. And I know that all the stuff that gets sent in is complete shit because it's pretty much stuff that is being bought most likely from eBay. And it's, again, when you're paying this much money for these machines, you got to realize what's going on eBay is you're getting the stuff that nobody else wants to work on. So it went to a regular shop, they said no. It went to L2, they sodomized it and they said no. I tried to work on it after fixing whatever L2 stole from it or fucked up on it, and I said, you know what, this is a rabbit hole. And then eventually, once everybody else has said fuck this, it gets sold on eBay to you. So if you're buying stuff on eBay, you're buying the stuff that everybody else filtered through before it went to eBay, because eBay is the lowest common denominator when it comes to used item sales. You're buying what everybody else said no to. And that's a really bad idea.